I have played over 5 hours of Mafia 3, and it is certifiably epic. What's going on, guys and girls? It's GhostRobo, and today we're talking all about Mafia 3. I'm super excited to share all the details and goodies about my trip down to New Orleans, where I got to play a ton of this epic upcoming open world game. First off, big thanks to 2K for flying me down to the city where the game takes place. New Bordeaux in Mafia 3 is obviously based on New Orleans in the real world, and it was super cool to experience the city as I learned a ton about the game. So just to give you some context here, I played about 5.5 hours of the game, the first 2 to 2.5 hours of the story, the campaign from the beginning, opening cutscene and all, and then jumped forward and played about 2.5 hours of open world mid-game action. So I got to see a ton of variety and a ton of examples of what this title has to offer in the form of missions, combat, characters, cutscenes, storytelling, and more. Now I want to focus this video on 3 major pillars that really stood out to me about Mafia 3, and those are authenticity, storytelling, and then similarities and differences with other open world games. Now, I have more Let's Play style videos that are bigger chunks of gameplay, but this right here is sort of my overall impressions and review of the game thus far. And I have to say I'm incredibly impressed. We'll start off with the authenticity pillar, and that really takes shape in the form of brutality and honesty. This game pulls no punches. They are delivering as accurate and as true to history and life New Orleans 1960s Mafia experience as they possibly can. It is super graphic in all the ways you can imagine. It really hits the nail on the head in terms of violence, in terms of racism, and in terms of lifestyle back in that time period and in that place. They do an exceptional job of wrapping you up in this world, and that'll tie into the next pillar of storytelling. But sticking with the first pillar here, I really was impressed with how far they were willing to go with this game. Right off the bat, you get a little warning message that says, hey, we wanted to depict this as accurately as we could. We don't believe in the things that are being said. We don't necessarily agree with the actions that are being done, but we at Hangar 13 really wanted to deliver an authentic, true Mafia 1960s New Orleans experience, and I really like that message. I think it was the most eloquent way of saying, hey, this game is gonna get ugly, but that is what we needed to do to give you the best Mafia 3 we possibly could. I mean, it is really intense. I almost feel like I need to put a warning up before my walkthrough, because there is some crazy stuff. We're talking people getting their throats slit ear to ear. We're talking people getting bludgeoned and battered and beaten. We're talking racial slurs that made my eyes go wide, because again, it is not really catering to the sensitivities of sort of the modern media landscape. They really are immersing you in this world, and I love it for that. I think that the city looks absolutely great. I played on PC. The game looks and runs fantastic. A few shadow hiccups here or there, but nothing that distracted from the overall experience, and who knows if those are fixed by now anyways. But the city looks great. They've got a really nice day-night cycle, a weather cycle. You'll see some of that here, and again, more in my Let's Play videos. Lincoln Clay is a very well-realized character. I like how just hulking and imposing he looks on camera, while also retaining sort of a youthfulness. And it really plays into the overall storyline, which we'll get into in a second here. But dang, they do such a good job of evoking that era. And right from the beginning, you're sort of going through this Mardi Gras parade, and in the distance, you're seeing cops beat down African Americans. And is it pretty? No. Is it enjoyable to witness? No. But it really cements that, like, hey, like, this is a hardcore Mafia experience. And I know some people were worried, like, hey, they're going away from the Italian mob, but, like, have no fear. This is possibly more crazy than Mafia 2, so don't worry about that at all. They set everything up really well, and again, at every turn, Whether it is the cars, whether it is the music, whether it is the characters, it does feel very authentic, and I applaud them for nailing that so well. Now, the second pillar I mentioned was storytelling, and here's where I think things get really, really good and really, really strong for Mafia 3. They do an exceptional job of delivering an open-world experience that is speckled and sprinkled with moments of linearity. Now, for me, as a story-driven single-player gamer, I love this because it provides those moments where you feel locked into a very well-crafted, fine-tuned mission while also having the flexibility and freedom of an open world. So the beginning of the game is very linear in the sense that you are following a specific set of missions in a specific order and doing very specific things. But it's all in efforts to set up the storyline, introduce you to Lincoln Clay, your main character, show you his first days back from the war and what his life is like and why he's led to become sort of the brutal leader that he eventually becomes for this black mob movement down there in New Bordeaux. And there are plenty of really climatic moments early on. The first 2 hours really never seemed to let up. It sure didn't seem like it was that long. It flew by and in a very fun way. I like the mission variety. I think it really encapsulated, little bits of driving, little bits of combat, little bits of storytelling, little bits of stealth, little bits of everything. And there's some really cool just storytelling devices at play here, and they show up super well in the opening hours. You've got sort of a flashback style mission in a bank heist, which is really great. And I don't want to spoil all the specific details, so I'm just going to talk around some of the missions and give you some generalities. But you start off and there's a bank heist mission, and then you kind of learn about how these characters met, and then it completes that mission and ends with an epic chase. There's a lot of the scenes that you've seen in trailers take place and are fully fleshed out here in the opening. Plus, you're getting these bits of the documentary. Now, if you don't know, a lot of Mafia 3 is told through sort of this future documentary about what happened during these very formative and diabolical and deadly years for Lincoln Clay. So you hear from some great characters, especially Father James and Donovan. Now, Donovan is a CIA agent who works with Lincoln Clay to help him take down the people he's after and really rip apart the Mafia family in New Bordeaux. Father James is more of the spiritual leader, obviously, but he also supports Lincoln in different ways. And particularly Father James' character, the way that the voice actor delivered that performance was just really captivating. I loved how he had a sincerity to how he talked about the past. You could tell there was just so much emotion in there, and they really, really captured it in a way that wasn't cheesy, didn't feel forced or fake, didn't feel corny, but really kind of gave a sense of the plight and the pain that was associated with the just absolute chaos of that stretch of years. Now, Donovan is a little bit more brash. You see him in the courtroom going through a hearing with some senators, and he's a little bit more of sort of the feels great to just speak his mind and tell it how it is kind of guy. And the contrast between the two characters is really cool in framing the story of Lincoln Clay and framing the story you're going to play. Now, it's interesting how they chose to sort of reveal some of what is going to happen in the future before it actually happens, but I think that all in all, it's a great plot device that differentiates and distances itself from a lot of other games where you just have more of a straightforward storytelling. I can't think of many games that sort of do the flashback style thing that a show such as Lost did, and I really like the ambition that they had to put this in there. So storytelling-wise, the characters come across really just true. You feel the honesty in the performances, and Lincoln himself, while a very angry and vengeful character, does have a multifaceted personality as well. Sammy Robinson, his early on father figure, is a pretty interesting character, as well as some of Lincoln's early friends, and eventually Thomas Burke and Vito and Cassandra. And I saw how he meets those characters, and I don't want to go into specifics, but it's pretty cool and interesting to see the first moments of Vito and how he's introduced to the game and how it all makes sense. The first moments of Cassandra and how she's introduced to the game and how it all makes sense. So storytelling, like, they hit again it out of the park, and that was for me my favorite aspect of the game, was the fact that sure, the mechanics are really great and I really love how it plays. I think it controls beautifully. I think the combat is very physical and very brutal, and that you know, is something that factors in not only to the gameplay and the mechanics, but also that authenticity. The guns, they sound great. There's a really nice audio scheme and landscape to this game, whether it be in sort of the more licensed tracks that you get while you're driving the cars, whether it be in more of the background music as you're moving through the missions, whether it be in the sound effects of the weaponry, of the footsteps. It's just got a real nice weight to everything, and I think that contributes to all three pillars. I think it contributes to the storytelling, to the authenticity, and I think it contributes eventually to sort of the differences in what sets this apart. Because for me, the fact that this merges linearity with open world is the true beauty of Mafia 3. Combine that with some really super solid and engaging storytelling, and you have an absolute winner. I am not the biggest open world fan. I'm not even the biggest Mafia fan. I really enjoyed 2, but I had no like super hype for this game when it first got announced. The more I see of it, the more I've played, I am 100% convinced that this is going to be one of the top titles of 2016, and that comes with really no qualms because I like everything that they're doing here, and I think it really speaks to sort of a next-gen open world experience and will sort of fill a super fun fall game slot for pretty much any gamer, as long as you're okay handling the brutality. I mean, there is stuff as really dark as what basically amounts to a KKK manhunt, and that was like, it was an intense scene to witness. And, you know, they were talking about how they really, you know, debated and they focus tested how people react to this, but they felt like they needed to deliver that authentic experience. And again, I respect that. As someone who's always been interested in game design, I really like the fact that they didn't want to hold back in any way. One thing that they did pull away, just to give you guys some detail, is they reduced some of the more just really racist speech from passerbys, because it eventually became overwhelming, and like you didn't want to just play the game running around and feeling like you were you know, this horrible low life. So they removed a little bit of that, but trust me, it is not in any way diluting this experience. This is a hardcore experience, and I think that hardcore is a really good word to describe the storytelling, the combat, and sort of what separates Mafia 3, because I think that it has more of just a really gritty gamer feel to it. And I know that, you know, there's plenty of fun to be had with open worlds and plenty of fun to be had with online modes. And even 2K and Hangar 13 have decided to integrate customizable outfits for Lincoln. They're doing DLC story packs in interesting locations. But outside of that, like, I love the fact that the shotguns, the sniper rifles, the pistols have so much oomph here. I think it feels very much like a shooter. I love the stealth and the cover system. I think it feels very much like a well-made third-person combat game. I love the cutscenes and the dialogue with the characters. I think it feels like a single-player story. And so from all angles, they have really brought quality, which is super impressive. Typically, open world games struggle. And if I had to pick one area where I think Mafia may struggle, it would be in the variety and sort of the repetition of the open world non-story missions. So there are different districts in New Bordeaux that you will be tackling and trying to dismantle and take over for yourself. Now, those districts end with an epic series of more linear and focused missions and storytelling. You saw one back at E3 where there was sort of the riverboat shootout and the eventual swamp gator confrontation. I got to play one that ended up in a really swanky party, and then a crazy shootout in a club. It really, those are really awesome. And there's other story missions that take place in grocery stores and in harbors and like just a whole lot of variety. The swamp itself, like you get to go there. But in between these more set piece moments, you are roaming the world and trying to basically inflict as much cash damage as possible to the Italian mob and to the factions that you want to sort of wreck here. And that takes shape in the form of sort of hit list missions where you're going to kill a specific target, ones where you need to burn or destroy something, ones where you need to interrogate someone. And while those are fun and enjoyable and provide more of that sandbox, approach them how you will and how you wish experience, I hope that there is enough variety in sort of the styling and the setup of those that once I get through the 11 districts or whatever, I'm not feeling like I'm doing this over and over and over again. You can get through some of them quite quickly. You can move, through those more in-between and open-world missions with a lot of speed, and that's fun to just kind of drive around and see the cash trickling down and how well you're really going about, dismantling and sort of taking down the Marcano family, and Sal Marcano, sort of the big boss, the leader of the Mafia family there in New Orleans, and dealing damage to him and his operations feels great because he is a humongous jerk. So I hope they're able to keep those in-between open world segments fresh, because I think ultimately, I don't know, hour breakdown, but I would imagine that takes up at least half or probably more of the game. And then you run into the more linear, story-driven sort of climactic moments and set-piece missions, which are all super fun and all awesome. Everyone I've played has been different. Everyone I've played has had sort of that wow moment, and everyone has ended in like a super nasty fashion. So similarity-wise, of course you've got guns and gore and fast cars and flexibility and freedom. You can open up a weapon wheel. You can open up an abilities wheel. Those things are shared with other open-world games. But when you merge in and bring in this more story-driven, linear aspect, I think it forms just a beautiful combination that is executed super successfully here. And to me, that's what really sets Mafia 3 apart, is that they bring sort of these different worlds of gaming together. You've got the single-player, story-driven type of video game mixed with the open-world type of video game mixed with the third-person shooter, and it just works wonderfully. And then the final difference, which I think may be the most shining, perfect example, you can boil down all of the pillars of authenticity, storytelling, and sort of this unique mix into these moments, are the underbosses and their eventual culminating conversations and confrontations where you have to decide who gets control of the district. So this goes back to Burke and Vito and Cassandra and deciding who is going to run the different rackets and districts that you capture. Now that is cool because you can acquire different abilities, different weapons, and different perks based on who you assign different areas to, but where it really shows what Mafia is about is in the confrontational moments, the cutscenes that develop out of that, people getting super pissed off at you, characters arguing amongst themselves, Lincoln Clay slamming his fists and trying to establish order, people walking out of meetings, giving you threats, and then where it gets super crazy to me is the fact that you can eventually kill these underbosses. If you piss them off enough, if you do not satiate their demands, they will turn on you, and you will in turn have to turn on them, and it becomes a real nasty mission. I don't want to spoil anything, but I had to do it, and it didn't feel good. I mean, this person was a huge jerk when push came to shove, but it's crazy that you have these pivotal characters, these three pivotal side characters, the most important NPCs for Lincoln in the game. Obviously, Sal Marcano is important, but for a whole different reason. And they can just not exist anymore. That means that you don't have the conversations with them. You don't have all the ability to move down their progression and upgrade tree, and you just don't have them around, which I think is pretty special. So many games promise choice. They promise, all these different permutations and outcomes, but how many actually give you the chance to kill off major characters in a game like this and then see the repercussions? I don't even know how how it ends up playing out. Like, then you just have these sad 3-man conversations instead of 4-man conversations with, you know, Lincoln and the 300 bosses. Or what if you eventually piss off 2 of them? Is that possible? Can you get down to just you and Vito running the Mafia show? I don't know, but I think that right there is just the best 30-second example of why Mafia 3 is unique and how it sets itself apart. Those moments of hardcore, authentic, great storytelling that have gameplay and real implications that you will feel as you experience Mafia 3. So that's enough talking for now. Go check out my Let's Play videos if you want to see more solid clips of gameplay, bigger chunks. But I gotta say, I'm super pumped for this one. I hope you guys are as well. I hope this filled you in on a lot of good info. If you got any questions or comments, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video and are pumped for Mafia 3, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Thank you so much for supporting me. Thanks for making stuff like this possible. It was a huge honor to go down there and preview the game, because boy, is it a good one. I cannot wait for it to come out in October, but for now, I will settle for sharing these videos with you guys, because that was a super fun 5.5 hours. It passed incredibly fast, and I think it was the beginning of what is going to be a really special game. So I hope you guys got a lot of detail and got a lot of goodies here on why Mafia 3 really sets itself apart. Until next time, guys and girls, thanks so much for watching. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Drink some hot chocolate. I love you, and we will see you all later.